Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. Josh Warrington, the former two-time IBF featherweight champion, returned after, it was three defeats, isn't it? And over the last 3 years, he lost to Luis Alberto Lopez, where he lost his IBF title. That was a majority decision over 12. Then he lost to Lee Wood, got stopped in 7. Slightly controversial, so they said, but he was winning that fight, though, definitely. And then he lost to Anthony Kakache up at super featherweight. So it looked like his career was on the line. He's 34 now, the Leeds Warrior. You don't need to tell you much about him. He's an orthodox fighter, 5'7", I think. But he had to have a comeback fight. And it was never going to be against a real killer, was it? So they chose Asad Asif Khan, who came in with 19 wins with 5 KOs, 6 defeats, 2 by stoppage and 1 draw. And Khan, in his previous fight, had lasted 8 rounds with Michael Conlon, who was also on the comeback trail. That was only last month, I think. It was about 5 weeks ago, maybe, something like that. Now, Khan, unheralded. I mean, he got stopped in 5 rounds by Kanzu back in 2023. But there was no one on his record. He spent a lot of his time fighting in his home country of India, where boxing it's growing, but it's still not, there aren't a lot of big names over there. You look at his record, apart from some of the people he's lost to, there's no one really on his resume that springs out and hits you in the face. He's 31 years old. Warrington is an orthodox fighter, roughly the same height. They looked about 5'7", 5'8", maybe, both of them. Dimensions-wise, very, very similar. But Khan is a tough guy. He's a tough kid. And, of course, Warrington probably, his team chose Khan because of Khan's defeat to Conlon. And the question was, could Warrington go on better? Well, whereas the Conlon fight was an 8-rounder, this was a 10-rounder. And Warrington won. I thought he won every round. I can't think of many rounds that he didn't. I can't think of any rounds that I would dispute him winning, to be honest with you. I've only finished watching the fight 5 minutes ago. He also scored a knockdown in the 6th round, which was a right hand. Was it a right hand? I think it was a right hand that clipped Khan on the temple, sent him sort of splaying backwards and collapsed into the floor. It was one of those temple punches that discombobulates you. And Khan, like I say, he won the rounds, but he was getting hit. It wasn't that it was all one-way traffic. Khan managed to ride out that little, crisis in the 6th round with the knockdown, because he got up and he looked okay, a bit shaken perhaps. Warrington went in for the kill, couldn't get it, but he did dominate. He strongly dominated, and he dominated by the mere fact that he seems to be the more talented, well-schooled fighter. Used both hands well. Very aggressive fighter, Josh Warrington, as we know. Khan was hanging tough, firing back when he could, shipping a bit too much punishment. But in fairness, after the knockdown, he did show a lot of resiliency, and he earned his money in there, because he was constantly swimming against the tide, even though he was determined to hang in on the fight. He was up against it, put it that way. It was like he was trying to push a boulder uphill, and Warrington was just too heavy a boulder for him to keep pushing. But Warrington's work was good, was generally speaking pretty good. He did look to me like he lacked a little bit of the old snap. It was almost like the brain. I mean, he's 34 years old now, Warrington. And he's had quite a long career, quite a tough career. But he was trying desperately to get some rhythm going, keep the output going. The best I've seen Warrington, actually in recent years, was in the early rounds against Lee Wood, to be honest with you. Because I know Lee Wood was dead at the weight, but he was still a big, powerful lump early on. But Warrington didn't even let him have the early rounds when Wood was perhaps had a little bit of energy. He was very cavalier, and of course it ended up with him getting clipped and stopped. But against Khan, he didn't have to worry about any real power. Like I say, Khan's only got 5 KOs in 19 wins. It was kind of the ideal opponent for Warrington. He'll be disappointed that he didn't get the stoppage, because that would have been a little bit of a statement, considering Khan went the distance with Conlon. But he did manage to floor him. And afterwards, when he was interviewed, he seemed a little bit disappointed in his performance, said he perhaps could have done a bit better. But in all fairness, he's come off 3 defeats, one of them by stoppage. He's lost his title. He was always going to have to rebuild from the floorboards up. He said I felt I could have ended it sooner after the fight, and he knew he was hurting Khan, but Khan was game. And I think really Warrington, when all is said and done, he's going to think, at least I've got a win now. I haven't had a win for 3 years, so at least I've actually got my feet back under the table and I can build on this. I'm not convinced he's got enough left to go for another world title run. Certainly not at lightweight. It's going to have to be down at super feather. But they're probably going to put him in with Conlon, and loser leaves town. It's going to be that sort of scenario. I don't know. Warrington's been an absolute warrior, like his nickname says, the Leeds Warrior. But I didn't see, I did see a visible decline in sharpness, in consistency of the work, in rhythm. As you get older, your reflexes dull slightly, and they only have to dull 5-10%. And if you can't quite pull the trigger when you used to, that can be the difference between winning and losing. But of course, if they do put him in with Conlon, that would be Conlon is on the slide as well. So it would be, sometimes you get that when you've got 2 fighters on the slide, you put them together, they produce a really great fight. And Warrington is still a massive draw in Leeds, even though he's past his best. So, he'll probably get a few more paydays on a Matchroom show, but he's coming to the end, I think, as is Conlon. And as I say, this is going to have to be down at super feather. He's just not big enough for lightweight, as we saw again when he fought Anthony Kakache. But I don't know, what do you think? Maybe you're a Warrington fan, you're from Leeds. Tell me what you think. I don't think you can tell too much from this fight, because Khan's a good, tough, not journeyman, he's better than a journeyman, but a sort of gatekeeper type at this. It'll give you rounds. It'll give you rounds without threatening to win. But let me tell you what you think. You tell me what you think. Leave your comments below. I want to hear what you've got to say about Warrington. Do you think he's got it in him to go for another world title run? I personally doubt it. But leave your comments below anyway. And I hope you liked the video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks again for the 6,000 subs. Much appreciated. The channel's growing. Here's to the next 6,000. Why not? We'll aim high. If you aim really, really high, then even though you probably won't succeed, at least you'll get relatively high, All right, ladies and gentlemen, more to come. We've got Dalton Smith against Matteo German. Probably mispronounced that name. That's to come. I'll do a review of that as well later on. But enjoy the fight. Take care. Catch you later. Bye for now.